This is sort of a part of a larger project where we're looking at all lands that are agency lands that have not been proclaimed as WMA PHA, which is public hunting area, or refuge. And we found that in the statute, we also have this option of state fishing lakes. And so what we've done is kind of looked at the lakes that we own, that are out there, that are not part of an existing WMA or public hunting area or refuge. And we want to go ahead and proclaim those as these state fishing areas. So these will become what we call SFAs. And I've got these 10 lakes here to present, and I'll just read them off. They're just the boundaries of where these lakes are, north, south, east, and west, and it just declares them as being there. So 1513 is for Bedford Lake, 1514 proclamations for Davy Crockett, 1515 for Gibson County, 1516 for Carroll Lake, 1517 for Garrett Lake, 1518 for Glen Springs Lake, and then 1522 for Herb Parsons Lake, 1523 for Marrowbone Lake, 1524 for Lake Graham, and 1525 for Whiteville Lake.
Any questions? Okay, do I hear a motion?
Move to approve proclamations as presented.
Okay,
Second.
second. Okay, any other discussion, the commission or the public? Okay. Now, Cheryl, do I need to read every proclamation? Okay. Okay, all 10 of the proclamations? Say aye.
Aye.
Anybody against? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Cheryl, you did just get back from vacation or being away. She's just relaxed, and we didn't have to read those. Thank you.
Chairman, Mr. Chairman, that's the,
I got one question.
Okay.
We had at our last meeting, we talked about some size limits that they were proposing for change on the last meeting we had. I don't see any of those. You talked about lowering the size limits on Douglas. I don't see any of that, and shouldn't that be in the red line and go out to public comment for our sport fish proclamation, Bobby?
That'll come out for the October packet.
That'll be out. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. But will that go out for public notice for people like this?
It already has. It has the change in the. Are you
Go ahead,
talking
Frank.
for
The changes that were discussed at the last meeting are currently out for public comment, and they have till October 5th or 8th, and we may have to do something with that deadline to push it right against to get more opportunity for people to comment on the river thing. But so far, it's been pretty light, kind of both ways, just a few letter stuff.
okay.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions concerning fishing? Okay. Mr. Chairman, that's the end of Fishing Commission.
Thank you, Chairman Watson. Just in time, Chairman Woodson, Government Relations Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to recognize Chris Richardson to come and talk to us about House Bill 1104.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Members of the commission, I'll be very brief. Just wanted to give the commission an update on House Bill 1104. As I updated you on earlier in the year, House Bill 1104 created an Off-Highway Vehicle Advisory Committee. That committee has met for the first time last month and started its organizational process, has another meeting scheduled in October. We as an agency are very well represented on the committee. Both Major Brian Ripley and former Commissioner and Chairman Jeff Griggs were appointed to serve on that. So anxious to get the committee's report, which they are required per the statute to give to the legislature in January. The focus of the committee is going to be on, number one, the feasibility of a statewide off-highway vehicle program, what that might look like, and a particular focus onto the funding component that would have to go along with an off-highway vehicle program, and also a safety educational program for OHV riders. With that explanation, Madam Chairman, I'll entertain any questions.
Any questions, members?
More to come.
That was so thorough position, Chris, that stunned us with all of, no kidding, thank you for all your doing, Chris. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Madam Chair, let me ask a really quick question. I want to make sure our position on this still is that we prefer not to do it. Is that correct?
I would love for Chris to come up and articulate the position of the agency as he's communicating with our partners.
I think we've taken a clear position that when it comes to an off-highway vehicle program, that would open our existing lands to the recreational riding of off-highway vehicles and any conflicts that might occur with our hunters, fishermen, the clientele that bought and paid for many of these WMAs. We're clearly against any type of program. Now, that being said, when it comes to the feasibility of a statewide program and what involvement TWRA might have, the time has not come for us to weigh in on, until the committee does its work and comes up with what their recommendation is. It's not time for us to weigh in on it. There's certainly no documented proposals on the table. They are simply studying the issue, looking at how much would a program cost, where land could be acquired, what a safety program might look like. There's a lot of hurdles that have to come before we can have a position on something. It's really much more conceptual at this stage.
But I believe historically, the agency took a position on this. I understand what you're saying. But I believe our position is and remains that we don't want it. We don't want to manage it. We don't want our WMAs. And I think that's the position the commission has had for several years. So I want to just clarify that. This is not something I don't think that unless it's changed, and I don't want to know about it.
Again, Commissioner Cox, I don't know that this is in any way an appropriate time to have a position because we don't know what the position might be on. Now, certainly Title 70 includes the Off-Highway Vehicle Act, which does, per the legislature, give the TWRA some responsibility when it comes to off-highway vehicles. Now, that particular act has never really gotten any legs because there was no funding mechanism attached to it. Now, any funding mechanism is going to take a legislative act, and any action will, in all likelihood, redo portions of that Off-Highway Vehicle Act. So there's a lot of things in play. And again, as the committee meets, the representatives that certainly Brian Ripley, who is a direct representative of the agency, and certainly Commissioner Griggs, who are very familiar with the history and the agency and off-highway vehicles, I think will be well represented. And until that committee comes out with a report, I don't know that we can really take any type of position on the issue.
Thank you, Chris. Commissioner?
Do you have any information on how that Doe Mountain project in Johnson County's gone? You know, from the very start, they had a shared.
I really don't. John Gregory, who's not here, would probably be better. He is set on the advisory committee, I believe, with the Doe Mountain Recreational Board. So I really don't have the latest on where that project is and how it's
Do
done.
we know if John's going to be with us tomorrow? Okay.
He is not.
Would someone just ask him to maybe give us an email update on that at his convenience?
Because, I mean, from the very start, it's been shared hunting and OHV too. So it'd be interesting, and hiking, the whole gamut. It'd just be interesting. Not that I think we need to take current WMAs and switch them. I'm just saying that in the future, if it's a joint venture, it's interesting to see how that works out for them.
I think it's going well, actually. Any other questions for Chris Richardson? Excellent. Thanks again, Chris.
Thank you, members of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Woodson. Moving on to the Budget Committee, Chairman Harold Cannon.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. The committee recognizes John Mayer, manager for Region 3, regarding budget expansion.
Thank you, Commissioner and Commissioners. One of our intrepid WMA managers for South Cherokee WMA, Tellico Lake WMA, David Whitehead, applied for and hit upon a National Wild Turkey Federation Superfund grant. They approved it granted the grant for $9,995 to buy a brown tree. I think what it is a limb cutter to keep open the linear fields on South Cherokee WMA, Tellico Lake WMA, And so requesting the commission to expand the budget by $9,995 to purchase this piece of equipment. It's actually an attachment that goes on a tractor.
So moved.
Mr. Mayor, thank you, and let the record show Mr. Cox is on this committee. He has made a motion for approval.
Second.
I have a second. Is there any discussion from the commission? Any discussion from the audience? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. John, thank you so much. Sure. Thank you, Bill. Committee recognizes Mark Goodland, Acting Chair of Wildlife and Forestry, regarding a budget expansion related to hunter-killed ducks in Regions 1 and 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me, we would like to request expansion of the budget of $30,000 to accept those funds from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Wildlife Services, and this is to test ducks, sampling about 390 ducks from Regions 1 and 2 for highly pathogenic avian influenza, which has become a big concern nationwide, from what I understand, one of the largest disease monitoring efforts going on by them. There's has a great potential impact on domestic poultry already. In some of the upper Midwest states, they've had to euthanize about 48 million chickens, another approximately 17 million turkeys, and of course the southeast is particular concern because of the chicken poultry operations that we have located here. And so with the fall migration coming from northern ducks, they can carry the virus. We are trying to sample and cooperate with the U.S. Department of Agriculture and our state Department of Agriculture and others on trying to monitor for this agent.
Thank you, Mark. Let me say that your division and other divisions within TWRA, remarkable action on your part, being proactive in this, and just our interaction with the Department of Ag. All of you all have done very well, so thank you for taking the steps that you have. Do I have a motion to approve this budget expansion? Do I have a second? Any discussion by the commission?
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
So, we sampled 390 birds, 2 birds come back positive. What action as we, as an agency, are we gonna take?
I'm not sure there's any particular action that we as an agency take. I will look into that further as far as what happens in those scenarios. This has all come up fairly quick since I've taken on the acting chief role here. Probably more as for knowledge from U.S. Department of Agriculture and trying to tie in how the agent may be spread, let's say if it does show up at a poultry farm here somewhere. So when you look at the distribution of the samples that are taken, they'll look at, where they are finding the virus and then see if there's any correlation, if and when it might show up with a poultry producer.
Mark, I think Chairman Bledsoe's probably got a lot of insight into this one.
To answer Chairman Baker's question, if there was a positive found, the state vet's office would be immediately notified. They've done a tabletop exercise, and they would come in, and the specific area that was positive was found, they would start doing tests on the surrounding area in that median, and if they found any, they would do like in a poultry operation, they would do immediate depop. And so, but as far as TWRA's role in it, to the best of my understanding with Walter Cook, we would be doing the legwork on some of the more remote areas, not the poultry operations, but the some of the backyard flocks and some birds moving in and out of the area, the wild game, and then plus the quail and duck being brought in for field trials and such, and some of the eggs being brought in would be TWRA's role. So, but.
And Joe Benedict, our statewide waterfowl coordinator, is working closely with Walter Cook and and the others on this, and he's out in the field today, wasn't able to be here to answer questions.
I've dealt with Cook several times about being able to transport birds across state lines for field trials. So I understand the importance. I just want to make sure that we're, as a field trial community, we're doing everything we can to make sure we're not bringing a problem to Mr. Bledsoe's operation or any other poultry producers in the state.
Is this a new virus? Has this been isolated, or is this a new strain, or?
Do you want me to do it?
Yes, if you can handle that, that would be great.
There is,
Assistant Chief Bledsoe.
I'm by no means, hey, when it hits your pocketbook, you learn a lot about it, so.
Chicken man.
Normally when it comes down, there's, a bird flu, but it's usually a low-path avian influenza, which is not really spread as quickly or anything like that. It's just mainly the contact. But last year on the breeding grounds in Canada, you know as well as most that the viruses mutate, and they're very tricky. And they mutated last year into a high-path AI and come down through British Columbia and then into Washington and Oregon, and then made the Mississippi flyway and come down, and then as they went back, warmer weather, the virus doesn't do well in warmer weather, so it's just mainly in the wintertime. So hopefully right now it is mutated back to a low path. We'll know in probably the next month or so, because the Canadian Department of Ag has assured us as soon as if they have a case, we will be the first to know. So, I mean, the United States will be the first to know. So.
Most flus may have a good year and a bad year.
Right. Yes. And to date, this is probably the largest agricultural disaster we've had. So, I mean, it's in the way up in the millions how much it cost everybody. So, buy your turkeys now for Thanksgiving.
All kidding aside, Chairman Bledsoe has been on top of this and in the thick of it with Walter. It is serious, and I was not being, or not blowing smoke when I said, if ever there's a time people say government is not efficient or doesn't work together to get things done, the reaction to this issue has blown that perception out of the water. It has been remarkable. State, federal, you name it. It's remarkable how everybody's pulled together and can continue to pull together. Is there any other discussion? Any discussion from the public? If not, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Mark, thank you so much. As Tim Churchill comes up for the real estate report, let me briefly bring the commission up to date. As you're aware, the Budget Committee met this morning with the representatives of the State Treasurer's Office. It was a publicly noticed meeting. Excellent information from the State Treasurer, and as a commission, we do commend the State Treasurer's action in opening up as many opportunities as they could for us to take our endowment monies and invest them into something that's higher yielding. At the time we were dealing with the license fees, many of you will recall that the interest rate on the probably around $45 million was at 0.07%. And there was an O after the decimal point. That has improved slightly. Barry, I believe we're up to 0.09. Is that correct, sir? Or somewhere in that ballpark?
No, most recently, we're up to .13.
Well, we're moving up.
Skyrocketing.
The committee was basically given three options for the investment of these monies. Motion was made and action taken to, in keeping with the Treasurer's Office recommendation, to invest these monies in a different way that is consistent with what the legislation allows. All this has happened fast. We are not prepared to get into the details today. Barry, I'm going to put you on the spot. I am going to ask if you would to have the slide of the three different options that were presented today, and we will unpack the recommendation. But action was taken and approved to reinvest these funds. We will be coming to the commission tomorrow to ask for formal approval, and with your formal approval, it will be the committee's recommendation that Barry call the treasurer's office immediately to begin the transfer of these funds. Sorry for the long-winded explanation, but it's been happening pretty fast today. Tim, my apologies, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Commissioner Cannon. As I do every couple of months, I'm going to run through and kind of update you. All this stuff is in your books on what real estate is transacting across the state. I'll begin in West Tennessee. We've got a few smaller tracts, 100, 200 acres in various counties that have closed. A couple in Chester County down here, Young and Chumney. There was a mitigation bank, Northwest Harbor, that closed. That was a donation. Sykes Tract up at Bogota. And the rest of these are still in play. We're still working through the acquisition process on those, and they're sort of scattered all around. Most of these are wetland fund transactions. I'll just, unless somebody throws their hand up or has questions, I'll just keep going.
Most of these are wetlands funds. Which ones are not wetlands funds, and where's the money coming from?
Buffalo Ridge, which is in Hickman County, Humphreys County to the east. It's 1,814 acres. That's one that's PR monies, and you all have expanded the budget to accommodate that, and I think that is all in West Tennessee. Okay, moving on to Region 2, we just have a few that are working through the process. We've got, if you look far down to the south, we've got a tract from the Wildlife Foundation that they acquired and are gifting to us, that is a Elk River boating access site. We've got a couple of actually there's another tract up, if you look up to the north, this Johnson tract is at Cedar Hill Swamp, WMA. There's another tract that we're just going through the approval process with State Building Commission to get another one that's an additional 55 acres or so. We've got the biggest one down here is Pump Log Hollow, which is a Nature Conservancy site that we're getting for half price. It's about 1,000 acres. Region 3, we've got a couple of big ones, and these are, for the most part, I think they're all, well, except for the Cunningham tract down at Scotts Gulf. That's wetland. The rest of them are PR projects that I brought. Well, I don't have Buzzard Bluff approved yet. It probably shouldn't be on there, but the other ones I've got approved, and we've gone through and expanded the budget to accommodate. Some of these are going really slow, particularly the two up in Jackson County, but we're working through on McCart up in Morgan County, and Cunningham is slowly but surely getting completed. Finally, over in East Tennessee, we've got over here in the North Cumberlands several tracts. One of them just closed, very small tract. These are all adjacent to the WMA, and some part of it are in holding. That low was gifted to us by the Nature Conservancy. The other two are still working through the process. The Cameron tract we've talked about before is on the South Holston River. It's a boating access site as well. And that's it.
Any questions from the commission?
I got a question on that Cameron tract in Sullivan County. How close are you to closing on that tract?
Very, like in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, Dwight, this question might be going over to construction. Can we talk about that while we're talking about these tracts?
Absolutely.
Okay. Dwight, what is the, once you close on that tract, can you give us an update on how long it would take us to have facility there? And also, while we're up there in Sullivan County, what is our status on getting access to Boone Lake?
The Cameron track, we need to probably work up a program and a cost and then get it in our budget. And then after that, we go through the permitting process and the construction process. So I'm guessing, well, I shouldn't guess at all probably, but it would be several months out, yeah,
2 years?
probably.
That's your best, okay.
We don't have it, we just pulled together the budget for 16, 17, and of course, the construction dollars were not in there, so unless you expand the budget, it would have to be in the next fiscal year. So, Boone,
You don't have you don't know what it's gonna cost you, so we couldn't expand the budget yet, can we?
no, not until we do all the topo and do all the layout, we don't know, but as soon as, as soon as we get it purchased, we'll start looking at that, because TVA is anxious as well and is wanting to participate in the construction of that. And it's a beautiful site, so it is.
Shot many ducks right there.
What was the other question? Was Boone Lake? We probably need to have some type of a sit down with you and certainly Commissioner McMillan, who has an interest in this, and I don't know if we can do it today or tomorrow. Ed will be in tomorrow. Maybe we do it tomorrow and kind of go over where we think we are on that with TVA. The Pickens Bridge site is moving very well. We know what we want to do there. I think we're in total agreement. Duval's Bridge is a little bit different now than what it was a few months ago.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Maybe Bobby could give us an update on the Boone Lake situation down there.
As far as what? I know what you're doing, but I'll be glad to speak if you want.
You're supposed to be in the know.
I can rattle off a lot of stuff about it.
Commissioner Cox, we haven't educated him yet. So
You look good in red, sir, I'll have to say that. Are there any other questions from the commission? Any questions from the public? Some of these, all the tracks are exciting. It's exciting to see some of these larger tracks bubbling to the top. That's good stuff right there, so.
Well, thank you. It is exciting stuff, and we're getting, there's, every week, there's more calls about other people that want to sell, so.
Tim, that's great. Keep up the good work, sir. Mr. Chairman, that concludes our report.
Thank you, Chairman Cannon. Well, we've done record time, evidently. Bobby?
Fisheries.
This is like the quickest we ever went through a commercial fisheries thing. Frank is efficient.
You still look good, Fred.
All right. Is there anything else to be brought before the commission? Anything from the agency? Anything from the commission? Anything from the public? If not, we stand adjourned until 9 a.m. in the morning.
Barry, you got a minute?
Yeah, all right.